I think that he's sort of growing and maturing. But originally, if you experience what I experienced, he's like a technical, um, intuitively good technical player. Let's see, G3 now. Um, I'm kind of hoping for a sort of Sicilian with D4. Clearly White's best move. I had one tournament game in this position in the Hungarian Team Championship last year, which was a draw. But I've had some games on ICC online where I wasn't real happy with my game when I played this position. If I play a hedgehog sort of formation, um, if I play too routinely into a hedgehog formation, I think that there's some risk that I end up with a very passive position where White just plays like f4, f5, has a kind of positional advantage. I'm flirting with playing an early b5 here. I think that move order is important. Another idea which I used in the tournament game I mentioned was to play very, very early h5. I think I played an early h5 to stop White from playing g4. In the hedgehog, sometimes you get away with not castling and playing h5. And even sometimes when you castle, there's some main lines of the hedgehog, where White's play d4 and Black plays c takes d4. There's some main lines deep in the hedgehog where Black actually plays h5, even in a castle position. But yeah, I was hoping to find a way to play b5 really early. I just don't really know if it's going to work. Maybe. Maybe we can play it next move. Like if he routinely castles here, we can play b5. Try to steal the initiative a little bit. He can play d4. He can play d3. So d3 now, discouraging us from playing b5. Yeah, I don't, I don't want to give anybody the misconception that I'm a Magnus Carlsen expert, because I'm not. I can only go on what I know, what I've seen, how he played against me, from the few games I've seen, because I don't watch all of his games. I've been a little out of chess in the last 6 or 7 years. Not completely, obviously, but, um, you know, I wasn't actively watching every tournament. So I'm not that up on Magnus. D3. So the problem here for Black, I think, is the biggest problem is this slow, classical sort of positional plan for White, which is basically castles f4, f5. That's the only thing I'm fearing here. If I played h5, some very aggressive move, he'll probably play h3. He should play h3. He shouldn't let me play h5, h4, because then I think that that's beneficial for Black. I can play d6. The queen c7 type of move I don't think has any real relevance yet. But I'm going to need to make a decision. We've had a lot of players from Scandinavia. I think if you look at the sample of the games I've played in the last week and a half since we started the Twitch stream, I've had a really high percentage of players from Scandinavia, mostly from Sweden, Finland, Norway. I guess that has to do with the time that I'm playing, but these players are tough. I could play b5. I think it's kind of an unsound gambit. Takes, knight takes. I normally criticize this kind of pawn sacrifice myself. I don't think it would be totally unsound. Black might have a little bit of compensation. Let's just hang out and wait and see what happens. if castle's h5. As I played it in my other game, what I'm talking about over the board last year, you might even find that in some chess database. I don't remember the name of my opponent. It was a Hungarian 2200, or maybe a FIDE master, actually. He wasn't just a nobody. I mean, this guy was like 2290 FIDE master. But I have to be careful of e5 pushes, by the way. Anytime, you know, the diagonal, you have bishops that are unprotected, it's very, very sensitive. You might be able to find the game in an online database. It was a draw, but I've played the English defense quite a bit, but I'm not that happy with the positions where black plays an early bishop b4. However, this particular move order, after c4, b6, knight c3, bishop e7, e4, e6, knight g, e2, I'm kind of drawing a blank there. It's sort of rarely played, though a good move, akin to the Reshevsky variation of the Nimzo. It sort of takes the whole point out of bishop b4. g6 feels a little weak, but you can always double fianchetto play a hippopotamus type of formation. Finland's not part of Scandinavia, but I get what you mean. I hope I didn't offend anyone from not Scandinavia. Yeah, what happened? I hope he didn't get disconnected. No, our opponent disconnected and forfeit. That's kind of a letdown. We're happy to pick up a couple rating points so we can maybe play stronger players, but it's not the way we want to, you know, we want to win. I didn't know that. That's interesting that Finland's not part of Scandinavia. That's interesting. That's kind of how American kids are, or at least in my generation, were taught geography. Maybe it's just a very large general misconception in the teaching of geography in the United States. So let's try again. Let's try again. 15-minute chess. We got another game. Look at this. What am I talking about? I insulted Finland by saying it's part of Scandinavia. What happens? Immediately, Josef Fritz comes on, man. He's gonna take me out, dude. He's gonna take me out, dude. He's gonna punish me. He's going to punish. Alright. But he's only 2005. Oh no. And he's angry. Ah, man. Finland is angry. He's playing the Grob Gambit. Does this have a name? Does anybody know if this actually has a name? Any of our viewers? Maybe he pre-moved it. You know, he thought I was going to play e4, d4. It's good against both those moves. Alright. I guess the idea is like knight takes g5, e5, or something like that. I can never resist a free pawn. Yeah, and now it would be inaccurate to play knight f3 here. We could do the Cochrane Gambit with knight takes f7. But I don't think that's going to be on the agenda today. Maybe in Bughouse. So here we can play e4, but that would hang a piece. Oh, by the way, this is my shortest game ever. In an English opening once, I like lost a piece in 7 moves, where I hung my knight on g5. One of these English openings where you play like knight f3, c4, knight c3, and black plays knight c6, f5, e5, like a Grand Prix attack type of thing. I was a master. I mean, I wasn't a beginner, and I played d4, and black played e4, and I put the knight on g5, protected by my bishop. And this was actually like a serious tournament game. And I left the room, I got distracted, and came back a short while later and started thinking very long time whether to play g3 or what. And I played e3 and I hung my knight on g5. I cut off the protection. And my opponent thought I was on drugs or something. I thought I was on drugs. I don't know what I was doing. But anyway, so we are going to keep the protection, you know, we're going to learn our lesson. We're going to keep the protection of the knight on g5. It's like a Peart's defense. E4, you know, tongue-in-cheek here. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to laugh at this guy because he's angry. I potentially, you know, mislabeled his country geographically. And you know, guys, I'm just joking, but you know, he may be serious. This may be like a serious opening for him. He has a tiny bit of compensation. It reminds me of this Shirov idea to play g4 against the Philidor. That's kind of the same thing here. Just he's a tempo down, and it's clearly not a sound concept. I suppose that there's like two really good candidate moves for white here. I mean, one would be e4, which would threaten the Nakamura-esque queen h5. And the second one, it's the Borg when black plays it. The Borg. And Borg is like a Swedish sort of name, which is close to Scandinavian. We can play e4, but I guess knight f6. I mean, it's nothing special, e4. And then the other option is to play kind of Peart's. So g3, I mean, g3's got to be fine. And it's a solid fianchetto. Just don't let me play e3, okay? Because if I play e3, I'm going to have to relive the horror of my quickest ever loss of the white pieces. Once I lost to Grandmaster Boris Danish in 7 moves with black, it was a c3 Sicilian, and I fell into some sort of trap. But that was far less embarrassing because it was this really tricky trap that Grandmaster Istvan Cham had actually fallen into before. So, you know, when you hung a piece but the Grandmaster had fallen for the same trick, it's not so bad. But when you lose a piece with white after 7 moves in the English opening, that's pretty bad. Alright, h6, we're not in love with that move. I don't think this guy's serious. His Borg is not for real, man. h6. That just really doesn't inspire. We're gonna do another hour of streaming till 12. Okay, bishop g2. And he's got normal position without his g-pawn, basically. Like a fianchetto reverse Peart's with no pawn on g6. Bishop g4. Okay, bishop g4 now. I like ideas of h3. But what's going to happen if, for example, h3, bishop h5, you know, there's no g4, knight h4 at the moment. c3 with the idea of queen b3 looks like a good idea. It also nullifies his bishop on g7. It's a very solid move. Okay, knight d7 is kind of taking the sting out of queen b3 ideas, developing fast. So h3